College testing. Hot topic last year, hot topic this year. So, majority of schools are test optional still. So that means students will not be penalized if they do not submit SAT or ACT scores. And how this goes about is majority of universities are looking at about 5 categories. They're looking at transcripts, test scores, essays, extracurriculars, and I can't remember the last one. It'll come to me. But when you take away one of those, that means they're only looking at the 4, but it's going to be weighted heavier. So if you are not sending your test scores, your transcript is going to be looked at a little heavier, about 5%. Same with extracurriculars, same with letters of recommendation. I told you I'd get there. And same with those essays. Some schools, and this is very important if you're looking at California schools, some schools have gone test blind, which means even if you send them your scores, they're not going to look at them to decide if you're getting accepted or not. Basically all the California schools have decided to go test blind this year. There are about 85 universities in the country that are test blind. And I have a list, so if you're not sure, if it's not obvious on their website, please come see me, and I can help you figure out if your school is one of them. What I always suggest is if you have a great score, submit it. It is not going to hurt anything when you submit a 1350 SAT. So if you have that great score, go ahead and submit it, even if it's a test optional school, because like I said, it's not happening. So here is some SAT and ACT testing dates. This picture right here is also on my website and the monthly college and career newsletter. So you can download it, save it. I know it's like super small print, but it is on the website for you to download and look at later. These are all the ones in the Highlands Ranch area. SAT versus ACT, I know majority of seniors have already taken it, so I'm just gonna real brief. Big difference, SAT has 2 maths, ACT has math and science. Any other questions? Find me after and we'll discuss. Okay, so the application process, this is the big chunk of it, because like I said, majority of seniors have kind of decided they want to go. So there are several different portals that you can use whenever you apply to colleges. Majority, about 700, of universities are on the Common App. These are all the 9 Colorado colleges that use the Common App. And then there are 691-ish more that use it as well. There's Coalition, which is a little bit smaller, only about 150 schools. And typically, not always, but typically schools that are on Coalition are also on Common App, and it is a heck of a lot easier to remember 1 password than 2. And it's just easier for your teachers, letters of rec, things like that as well. So if they're on Common App, use them on Common App. And then finally, there is university website portals. The university that I worked at here did not have its application on Common App or Coalition. It was only through their website. And a lot of private universities were that way. Majority of them are starting to get on board with Common App, but you might have some that are just on their own website portal. And supplemental items, so the transcripts, those letters of rec, those are all going to be sent completely differently depending on the university and what they require. So if that is one of your schools, your children's schools, have them keep in communication with me about how we can get that process moving. So there are 4 different types of application. There's rolling and regular, which once again, lots of text. Just listen, you'll get this. Rolling admissions. So that means as soon as you get your essays in, your letters of recommend, those transcripts, Once your application is complete, they will start reviewing your application then. You could potentially find out, I've had someone find out in 2 days that they were accepted. I have had students not find out for 6 or 7 weeks. It kind of just depends on the university. But they are reviewing it as soon as you get everything in. Flip side is regular deadline admissions. So typically, universities that have regular deadline, it's January 1st or January 15th. Once again, all colleges are different, but that is typical. That means you have decided you want to go to this school and you have turned in everything you need. Your application is ready to go October 1st. They're not looking at it until January 2nd or January 16th, depending on the deadline day. So it does not matter when you get your application submitted, as long as it is before that deadline. These schools that have the regular deadline, you typically do not find out until April if you've been accepted into the university. So for a lot of our seniors, that can be stressful. And so for schools that you are very interested in and want to know right away if you've been accepted, I suggest doing early action if they haven't. So early action is the same as regular admissions, except for earlier. So typically it's November 1st, that is the big deadline, but that means you have to have everything in on November 1st, and on November 2nd, they start reviewing applications, just like they would for a regular deadline. It's just moved up. You typically find out by the end of first semester or sometime in January if you've been accepted into the university. So I always suggest doing early action for as many schools as you can that have it, because then you'll find out earlier if you've been admitted into the university. And if you do it this way, all of your college apps are done by November 1st, and then you get to enjoy Thanksgiving and holidays and finals. So there's that. Early decision is very different. So early decision is a legally binding contract between your student and the university. It means if they get accepted into that university, they're going. It does not matter if none of their CE classes will count for credit. It doesn't matter if you get $0 in financial aid, you're going. So, early decision, big deal. I only suggest you do early decision if you're 3,000% sure that is the university you want to go to. Very hard to get out of early decision. The other thing about early decision is if you're admitted, you are required to remove all of your applications from every other university you have applied to. So they're your only option. However, early action and early decision do have higher acceptance rates. So I understand the appeal. If they have early action, do it. If they only have early decision, come talk with me. Students, talk with your parents. We'll figure out if we really think that's a good option for you. So applying to college can be super expensive, which I hate. But all 2-year community colleges are free. And then applications range. I have seen as low as 25. I've seen as high as like 116. So it can get very expensive. Like for my student that wants to apply to 17 universities, that's a lot of money. So I always suggest if you are looking at state schools in Colorado, you apply on the Colorado free application day, which is days now. Last year it was 1 day, very popular. They extended it, which is great. The reason I have these stars, that is during your fall break. So teachers are not looking at their computer at all during fall break. I probably will, but not looking at my computer. So for these Colorado free application days, you have to have everything you need from your teachers, from your counselor, by the week before we go on fall break. That is just something I want to warn about. The other not so fun thing, I already booked a family vacation before I started this job, and it's unfortunately the week before fall break. That means if you are wanting to submit these and you need a counselor letter of rec or transcripts, which everyone needs transcripts, please tell me as soon as possible. I want to make sure I get all of these done and completed before I leave. So come see me ASAP. And then application fee waivers are available for students that are typically for students that qualify for free or reduced lunches. Some colleges have free application days on their own. At the university I worked at, we tried to do one a month. And we said it's an open house, come interview, come turn everything in, you can apply for free this day. In addition, some colleges have tuition waivers that they just don't tell you about. So ask your admissions rep. Just say, hey, do y'all have any waivers for the application? And if they do, they'll typically just say, oh yeah, absolutely. Here's what it is. They just don't publicly announce it because they get a lot of money this way, but always ask. So when we're talking about matching reach schools, those applications are typically reviewed holistically. So what does that mean? It means that they're looking at both academics and what we call personality. So academically, they're looking at the curriculum on your transcripts. So don't be taking those slacker senior classes. They're looking at the rigor classes. They're looking at GPA, the school profile, what all we have to offer, what all opportunities students are taking advantage of that we offer. So CE, AP, all of those things. They're looking at SAT and ACT scores if they aren't test optional. And then they're also looking at AP test scores if you have them. Wow, that was a loud AC unit. I didn't realize that. Okay, and then personality. So that's where your letters of recommendation, your essays, all of your extracurriculars, where organizations you've been leaders in, volunteer hours, if you have a part-time job, and that final one, interviews. So here's what I have to say about interviews from a former admissions rep. If you're good at interviews, do it. If it is optional and you're good at interviews and it's your dream school, it's not optional. You're gonna do it. And here's why. So if you are good at interviewing, you get to meet an admissions rep face to face. And when I interviewed students, and then several months later was reviewing their application, I remembered who they were. I remembered their face. I remember their funny joke that they told me. I remember their personality and who they were. So if you are good at interviewing, I highly, 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 highly suggest that you do an interview if it is possible for your university. Ivy League and military academies. I do not care who you are, this is a reach school for everyone. And the reason is because Ivies and military academies are never a guarantee. You can have a 3.8 and be accepted to Harvard, or you can have a 4.9 and be denied. And they're looking for both. They're looking for the world changers, the ones that have created a nonprofit or a business, or have volunteered 2,000 hours somehow, or have a really great cause that they are working for. They already have a vision for their future. They're always looking for world changers. And that is why GPA does not guarantee you a spot at an Ivy League or a military academy. Like I said, they are a reach for everyone, including the top 3%, which is typically the range that they take, which our senior class, that's a 4.68 to a 4.81. If you have lower than that, that does not mean you cannot get accepted into these schools. I do want you to dream big. But there's no guarantee with Ivy Leagues, and that's the super fun thing about Ivy Leagues. So please, 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 also with these universities, submit your test scores. I do not care if they say they are test optional, they are not. If you have the exact same resume as someone else, the same GPA, volunteered in similar hours, same kind of extracurriculars, and they got a 32 on their ACT, and they don't know what you got on yours, they're accepting this thing. So please, please, please do not read test optional at Ivy Leagues as test optional. At every other university, yes, but not at Ivy's. Supplemental items. I told y'all, I really like names, so they bring me joy. Okay, so official high school transcripts. I send all of these. So I will send them electronically through Send EDU, Coalition, Common App. I will upload them to a portal, all the things. I always send them. However, if there is not a portal that you can add me to, you will need to fill out the transcript request form. So I make sure I'm sending the transcript to the correct place, the correct email, the admissions, things like that. Same goes for scholarships. So once we get into scholarships, typically more heavily in the spring for seniors, make sure you're filling that out. So I'm sending transcripts and you can get all the money. Yeah, okay. So if you do decide to send test scores, that is something that you need to do. We do not put your test scores on our transcripts, and we do not have access to my ACT or College Board to send them for you. So when you do take these, you can select 4 colleges for you to send for free. And then after that, each college is $12. So during the application review process, universities will only look at your highest scores. So if you took it 3 times and your best score was the second, that's the one they're going off of. In addition, some schools, not all, some schools super score, which means they're going to take the highest section of each of your attempts that you've submitted and super score that to give you the highest possible score that you can have, which is really great for scholarships. But like I said, only some universities do that. I would always ask if they do that, if you're interested in sending test scores. Admissions officers are going to be straight with you and let you know. Yes, we do. No, we don't. If you wait to send the test scores, if you don't pick those 4 free ones, it takes about 2 weeks for the university to receive them. But if you send the scores for free, those 4 universities get your scores the same day you get your scores. So you don't get to look at them and decide, do I want to send them to this university? They're already there. They're already in your application. So kind of some differences there. Okay, letters of recommendation are super important, especially for those holistic universities that are reviewing every week about you. So the first step is research what kind of letter you need. So there are several schools that say, coach is fine, theater teacher is fine, mentor, totally fine. And then there are some schools that say, no, it has to be a math or science teacher. It has to be an English or history teacher. So make sure you are asking the correct teachers or letters of rec. So make sure you research that. Please always ask in person if you are needing a letter of rec at a minimum 3 weeks before the deadline. You're probably not going to be the only student they're writing a letter for. And our teachers, I mean, y'all know this, they're so wonderful, and they're going to say yes to everyone that they can because they want to be able to get as many opportunities to our kids as possible. So please give them as much time as you can for them to write this quality letter of recommendation for you. And then as soon as they say, absolutely, I will write you a letter, that is when you email them your resume if you have one, that PPP, and your deadline. Please put your deadline in bold and highlight it and let them know that this is the deadline and then maybe cushion it. You didn't see that. So cushion that deadline. Because teachers are not just writing letters of rec, they're doing a lot of things. And a lot of times a conversation, they will forget. But if you send them an email and follow up with them, they will have all the information they need written down in ink on the computer. And then also, if you are on the Common App, you will need to add in the teacher information. So just first name, last name, and email to make sure that the correct link is sent to them for them to upload that letter of rec. Counselor recommendation, I know there is a handful of students that have recommendation letters from Ms. Lytle. I do have those, so I upload them on her behalf. Everyone else, if you did not talk with Ms. Lytle and get that letter, I will write all those counselor recommendations. So make sure you add my information to the Common App, any portal that you're using, so I can write that recommendation for you. Common App users. This is very, very, very important. If you're using the Common application, you enter your, like I said, first name, last name, and email of teachers. But before you do that, you have to sign your FERPA waiver. So that basically says, I am fully aware that I am asking a teacher and or counselor to write a letter of recommendation on my behalf without me seeing it. For a lot of applications, that is optional, but not on Common App. So on Common App, you have to make sure you do that. Otherwise, teachers are not going to get the link that asks them to complete the letter of recommendation. And then once again, I send all transcripts, school profiles, full report, everything like that. So even if your school does not require a counselor letter of recommendation, you still need to add me as your counselor so I can send all that information for you. And then finally, the responsibility is on you as the student to make sure that you're keeping your teachers on track. Fun little switch there. They're used to giving you deadlines, and now you get to give them deadlines. But just, you can go into Common App and all portals really, and see what has been uploaded for your supplemental items. So if the deadline is about a week away, and a teacher has not submitted that letter of rec, go ahead and gently, kindly push to get that letter of rec submitted on time. Okay, college essays. So, some colleges do not require an essay. Some are an interview in place of an essay, and some have essays that are optional. However, most colleges, especially all Common App colleges, require an essay. So, if you are not going to apply for an auto admit school, which is that, I have the GPA I'm in. If the application says recommended or optional, you really need to do it. If it is your dream school, everything is required. Because you want to put your best foot forward and show absolutely everything about who you are as a student to give yourself the best chance to get admitted to that dream school.